What's poppin', y'all? Hope y'all are having a great day. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little down in the dumps. So I figured, fuck it, why not cover UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Curtis 2. Not the worst of the last 4 main events that we've had. Probably the better of them, honestly. Probably just the straight up best one. Although the decision is, we'll get into that. But overall, not a terrible card. I didn't do so hot on it, but I did way better than the last 2. I'm honestly pissed that I still lost a main event. And I feel like I didn't deserve to. But before we get into all that, let's put the stats up on the screen. Coming down to 5-7 on my main event predictions now, which is just abysmal. I can't believe this. It's just terrible. I need to lock in and really start to change this. But honestly, I feel like I have been getting really unlucky this year. I feel like a lot of people have been. But let's just get right into that main event. Brendan Allen versus Chris Curtis 2. It was a really good fight. Super competitive. Let's just get this out of the way. Are we counting ground control and having somebody's back but not choking them above the damage done in the round now? We need to really decide that, especially because when we get down further on this card and I talk about some of the other fights that happened, it really starts to get so inconsistent. Let's get into my initial reaction. Let me show you guys what my initial reaction was to seeing the main event. But other than that, it was a great fight. Chris Curtis didn't do any favors for anybody that bet on him, or any favors for himself and his career and his coaches and the shit that really matters. Fuck the people that bet on him and the people that predicted that he'd get it done, because he honestly did. But let's be real, in the end of the 5th round, hurt or not like that, the last fucking 15 seconds you're gonna start and then just start laying down and folding and getting your ass beat. He could have got TKO'd in the last 5 seconds of a fight that he honestly deservedly won 3-2. I mean, if I really go back and watch it, I bet I could argue 4-1, but I'm going to stick with 3-2 because that's safe. And that's what I remember clear and cut, him winning the last round. I don't remember if he won the 4th round or not. I'm pretty sure I remember him winning the 2nd round. Yeah, pretty clearly he won the 2nd round. It's just disappointing. I feel like there's no consistency in this sport. You can have somebody piecing somebody up for majority of the rounds. He'll get taken down, have some control time, and just because of that, you have to be nervous as fuck. Like, is it going to be good judges and we'll, have the correct decision? Or are we going to come down to these bullshit split decisions? Let me just put up the stats of this card as well. How the fuck do you give Brendan Allen 4 rounds, bro? 4 rounds? You just can't make this shit up. It's getting so difficult to predict this sport. Overall, though, it feels like Chris Curtis was robbed of such a good opportunity, going from like 14 ranked all the way up right outside of the top 5. He kind of won, in my opinion. I mean, I guess now it's technically 1-1, and there's a little bit more, story behind them fighting. So maybe we'll see a trilogy happen at some point if they can, both keep pushing up the rankings. But yeah, no, just overall disappointing. And then to see Chris get hurt at the end of the round at the very end of the fight, it's just wild, bro. And then let's get into the co-main event. Oh, this one's even better. Let's get into the co-main event. Damon Jackson versus Alexander Hernandez. Dude, Alex, I'm never betting on you again, motherfucker. I'm never picking you again. I'm never trusting you for shit. Bro, you can fight a flyweight coming up to lightweight, and I'm picking the flyweight. How do you consistently drop fights where you out-damage the opponent for the most part? I don't understand how you fold after 3 minutes of fighting. Congratulations to Damon Jackson. We're not even going to talk about this fool, Alexander Hernandez. Despicable. Enough for the salt, though. Let's get into somebody that, an underdog pick I got correct. Somebody that improved to 3-0, Chepe Mariscal. Wins a super close decision against Morgan Charrier. I know some people are going to argue that Morgan won the first 2 rounds. I thought it was the correct decision. Definitely nervous when it went to the scorecards, though. And my reasoning for picking Chepe was exactly why he won. He's just too much of a dog. Even if he's going to be outclassed technically on the striking, which he was by a mile here, he's so good at making it his fight, and he did that the whole time. Honestly, kudos to Morgan. I didn't think he'd be able to stay in it as long as he did, and he definitely showed that he has some talent everywhere. But Chepe, he's just a dog. And training with somebody like Justin Gaethje all the time is probably going to get you to be one of those types of fighters at featherweight. So shout out Chepe, underdog pick, correct. Not everything was bad on this card, just most of it. Maybe not most of it. Just a couple things really soured it. And then we had Ignacio Bahamondes versus Christos Giagos. Not much to talk about here. In the first round, he just murks him with a head kick. And prior to knocking him out, he landed a beautiful spinning heel kick. And it landed clean. I don't know how Giagos took it. But, just shout out Ignacio Bahamondes. I didn't think he would be able to, like, clean knock him out. I thought it would be, like, maybe a third round TKO. Or probably just a decision like Christos' last fight, where it would be maybe even be close in a round. But you know what? He came out there, he looked sharp, and he did what he was supposed to do. He's a weight bully. He's a giant freak of nature for 155. He needs to be doing that outside of the rankings to everybody that he has that frame advantage on. Moving down the last fight the first fight of the main card. This is my parlay break. I was going up, I had like a 6-legger, and 5 of the legs were already hit, and I had Trevor Peek as my last guy. I knew what I was doing betting on that. I said in my video, I actually have Charlie Campbell to truly win, but I'm going to put my channel pick with Trevor Peek because I rock with people like Trevor, and he fought like how he fights in the fight, and he stayed in it the whole time. He didn't gas himself out and just, quit on himself. Even when he was tired, he just kept pushing, and I respect the hell out of that. Charlie Campbell was just the crisper boxer and crisper grappler. They both had some moments, but Charlie just did more. And that's just how it is. Sometimes that happens. I knew that was the risk I was taking, but I still fuck with Trevor Peek, and I'm sure we all do, so it is what it is. And we had Alex Morona versus Court McGee. This fight was way too close, let's be real. This was one of the, since my parlay was really building up to this point, I was going to be pissed if Alex was the reason that I lost, because he was somebody I thought would be a lock. And he does end up getting it done, just doing a little bit more on the feet. And, he had that guillotine attempt that was really close. I can't believe he let Court take a whole round from him dominantly. You need to fix stuff like that, because if you want to be anything in this sport, which I think Alex does, you need to be able to smash people like Court and not let him take a round from you. And that's just my take. Moving down the card, Lucas Bresky taking on Walter Walker. This is what I'm talking about. Is it control time or is it damage, UFC? Is it control time or is it damage, UFC judges? Is it control time or is it damage, you fucking fickle fans, bro? Because so many of you will argue that Walter Walker clearly lost that fight, and then you're gonna go and say that Brendan Allen clearly won the fight because of the takedowns and ground control. I thought Walter Walker banked the last round because he just had way more control time on the ground. Even though Bresky did outland him slightly on the feet, it wasn't that much. Walter literally had him in mount at some points, was just controlling the fuck out of him. And honestly, I was impressed with how smart he was when it came to the grappling, but he did look too gassed. And on the feet, bro, you need to train with your brother some more because you look garbage. Lucas Bresky is not somebody that's ever going to do shit in the heavyweight division. I don't know how he got a win right here. He's only going to get wins against people like this that are literally fresh in the UFC, so they're like ridden with octagon jitters, and you have to like beat those versions of them, because he's not going to beat Walter in a rematch. Or you have to beat these like trash, fat, overweight, no cardio heavyweights straight off the couch guys, because honestly, that's like everybody in the bottom 50, or everybody outside of the bottom 15. Just despicable, annoying as fuck too, because it broke one of my parlays. Is what it is. I mean, that's what a lot of my salt is for the last couple of weeks. I'm not gonna lie. The betting really does affect it, but it's also just been so unpredictable, and like honestly, it just seems like it's such a joke lately predicting fights. But it is what it is. The nature of the beast. Then we have Norma Dumont took on Jermaine Durandamy. Shout out Norma Dumont, dude. It's so awesome to see a female fighter like outside of the rankings or low in the rankings just do what she needs to do and be smart and have fight IQ. And just work her game plan and not fight outside of her strengths. You don't see it enough. That's why I flip coins to predict most of their fights. Jermaine was starting to look decent on the feet, and I was getting scared with Dumont just like winging overhands, staying on the feet for too long, but eventually she would find her way to the ground every time, and she just looked crisp. Shout out Norma Dumont, 6-0 in the UFC. One of the few women that I've been able to consistently pick, and she just gets it done, so solid. Then we had Victor Hugo taking on Pedro Falcao. I've been waiting for Victor Hugo to debut in the UFC. And it was a little bit lackluster. He took on somebody that fought him on like a day's notice, and it was way too close of a decision. He probably won every round pretty clearly. I don't even remember if it was like, 2-1 or 3-0 unanimous decision. Victor Hugo, he did look impressive in the sense that even when it kind of seemed like he wasn't doing all that much, he was finding ways to do enough to win. But that's not good enough for me at bantamweight. You need to show me some more with a 25-4 record. So I hope they give him a real test next. You know what? Feed him to Peyton Talbot. Fuck it. Let's see that matchup. I want to see if Victor Hugo's really about it. Then we move on. Gene Matsumoto took on Dan Argueta, one of the last 3 fights we're going to talk about. I really like Dan. I said in my prediction, he's a dog and he's always in it, but he just doesn't have enough besides that grit and his wrestling. And Gene Matsumoto showed after like a round of kind of getting out wrestled by Dan, and honestly almost 2 rounds of it, the last second of the second round, he taps him out. He taps Dan Argueta out with a guillotine choke. I don't know why Dan tapped. He was that close to it, but you know what? Shit happens. He looked good. Gene Matsumoto, my reason for predicting him was exactly that. He has been in some real wars where he's even dropped at the beginning of the rounds, like 5-round wars, back before he joined the UFC. And he still found a way to grit through all of those fights and come out on top. That's pretty impressive. You don't see that too much from people, coming up. You don't get to see like a literal example of them being tested most of the time. That usually comes in the UFC. So shout out Gene Matsumoto, another dub on the card. And then we had Cesar Almeida taking on Dylan Budka. I was nervous about picking Cesar, but he ends up getting it done. Dylan was out grappling him, but it was really sloppy. Like he was just spamming far out shots, pressing him up against the cage and kind of just trying to hold him there. Would go for some takedowns and he would secure him because he's a pretty solid grappler, but Cesar Almeida would just do barely enough. You could tell Cesar's never grappled, bro, and he would still do enough. Started landing those elbows like Curtis Blades style while he's defending the double leg up against the cage, and Dylan could not take that shit. Even the little pop shots where he's just like swinging like that up, trying to get his head to, move from, just holding him up against the cage. Even those little pop shots, busted up, gave a little mouse under Dylan Budka's eye. So, Cesar Almeida improves to 5-0. He's one of the better kickboxers in the whole division, obviously. I mean, he has a win over Chama, and that's just not something you see too often. So if they can give him some favorable matchmaking like they did Pereira and somewhat Izzy, I'm sure we're going to see this guy move up the rankings quickly. And we have the last fight we're going to talk about, Nora Cornell she took on Melissa Mullins. I sided with Melissa Mullins. I thought she'd be more of a dog in the striking department, and no, it was the complete opposite. Nora just outlanded like crazy, landed head kicks out the wazoo, landed a crisp body knee that honestly started at the beginning of the end, and yeah, just disappointing overall. It's why I hate trying to pick these fights, because honestly every bantamweight female fight is a fucking coin toss, but every single fight at flyweight and at strawweight, I had a stroke. Too many of them on this channel. At featherweight and strawweight, especially talking about these fights. Yeah, no, but again, at featherweight and strawweight, just coin flips everywhere until you get to like the top 10. Disappointing as fuck. Overall, I'm just glad we're out of these dark ages of these last 4 fight nights. I'm sure all of you are too. UFC 300 is going to be a banger. I'm going to make a super in-depth video talking about every single fight on the card because they're all so good. It's going to be like the only time on the channel I've done that, just hyper in-depth picks, different type of graphics and all that. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to say this, guys. If you've been watching me recently and you've just tuned into the channel, these last 4 fight nights have been the dark ages of my channel. Go watch any of my other pay-per-view predictions. I'm usually really solid on them. I usually get the main event correctly, sometimes perfectly down to the nail. So stay tuned for my UFC 300 prediction video. It should be much better than what these ones have been. But overall, just happy as a fight fan that we're getting so many back-to-back cards, even if some of them are pretty shit, because we do get some solid moments even off these fight nights. So let me know what you guys think about UFC 300, what you think about this trash. Not trash. Okay, let me chill on bashing it. Let me know what you thought about this fight night. Let me know especially what you thought about the judges scoring, because I thought it was just ridiculous. But yeah, that's going to be all for me yapping today. I'm going to catch y'all.